My name is Keith Hannan. I'm a licensed psychologist in the state of Maryland. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump into our topic today. Here are your DSM5 criteria for BPD. Now, I can remember being a young graduate student and listening to my supervisors, and I was blessed with some very good clinical supervisors during my graduate years. I look back on the training very fondly. But I remember listening to them talking about the challenges of working with patients with BPD. And then I remember going to my, what was probably then DSM-3, to look at the criteria for BPD. Like, what is this disorder everyone's talking about? And I didn't really have a sense for what it was. And I remember reading through these criteria and thinking, what is borderline personality disorder? People with this disorder, what are they struggling with? What are the root issues? What are the things that hang these 9 symptoms together? Like, what's the crux of this disorder? Over time, I've done, of course, a lot of reading, seen a lot of patients with BPD, gotten a lot of supervision, and if we look at the research, what we find is really a 3-factor model that what folks with BPD struggle with is impulsivity, disturbed relatedness, and affective dysregulation. If you look at studies comparing folks with BPD to control groups, in laboratory studies, they're less attentive and they have a tendency towards action. When they feel something, they can't just sit on it. They have to behave. They have to do something. They're also very sensitive to rewards and insensitive to punishment. So you can kind of think about folks with BPD as sort of running around chasing after good feeling or chasing after the removal of bad feeling and being very insensitive to the problems that can result from the way in which they're chasing after that good feeling. So they're sensitive to rewards and insensitive to punishment. And they have this tendency towards action. They have a lot of trouble with what folks in the psychoanalytic literature call containing. They have trouble sitting on affect or just containing it. They have to act on it. They have to externalize it. They have to do things to engage other people around whatever affect they're feeling. Secondly, disturbed relatedness. If you work if you work with folks with BPD, you know what this is about. They have trouble in relationships. They have usually a very crazy, chaotic kind of relationship history. Their attachment style is very insecure. They're less likely to have a stable relationships in their lives, those kinds of things. And lastly, the factor that I really think is at the root of everything for BPD, which is affective dysregulation. Folks with borderline personality disorder, they are acutely sensitive to things. They tend to feel things at a much higher level than other things. An event that might precipitate you or I becoming annoyed will cause them to become enraged. Those kinds of things are what they struggle with. And once they get to this high level of affect, they have trouble getting back to baseline. And so they spend a lot more time experiencing a high level of affect. And as a result, they make unwise choices in the throes of such strong emotion, as many of us can. So I think that's a big part of BPD is affective dysregulation.